Close your eyes and think about the last thing you really wanted. Maybe it was that promotion. Maybe it was a specific car, a certain number in your bank account, or a person you thought would finally complete you. Do you remember the burning in your chest? The way your mind convinced you that once you had that one thing, you would finally be able to breathe? You would finally be enough. Now, look at where you are today. You probably have things now that you once prayed for. You are living in a future that your past self would have envied. So, why are you still hungry? We are living in a society that is a masterpiece of manufactured dissatisfaction. From the moment you wake up and scroll through a glass screen, you are being fed a doctrine of lack. You are being told that your house is too small, your body is too old, and your life is too quiet. You are being trained to be a professional wanter, a slave to a next that never arrives. The hustle tells you that this hunger is your greatest asset. It tells you that staying hungry is the key to success. But the Stoics saw it differently. They saw a man who is always hungry not as a lion, but as a beggar. If you cannot find enough in what you have, you will never find enough in what you get. Today, we are going to break the cycle. We are going to learn the discipline of desire. We are going to stop trying to fill a bottomless cup and start realizing that the cup is already full. We are moving from the poverty of more to the abundance of now. Welcome back to the Inner Doctrine. Let's begin. 1. The diagnosis. The manufactured void. We are the first generation in history to be hunted by an algorithm. Every time you pick up your phone, you are entering a battlefield where thousands of the world's smartest engineers are working 24/7 to find the void in your soul. Their goal is simple: to make you feel like your life is incomplete. They sell you a solution to a problem you didn't have 10 minutes ago. This is the manufactured void. Modern hustle culture survives on your dissatisfaction. If you were truly content, if you looked at your current clothes, your current home, and your current achievements and said, "This is sufficient," the entire economic machine would grind to a halt. You are being conditioned to want the mirage of next. The Stoic calls this the hedonic treadmill. You run and run, chasing a horizon that stays exactly the same distance away. Think back to your first big win. Maybe it was your first real paycheck or your first apartment. For about 48 hours, you felt like a king. You had made it. But then, the baseline shifted. The apartment felt small. The paycheck felt thin. You started looking at the person who had twice as much as you, and suddenly your win felt like a loss. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." When you live in the next, you are a ghost in your own life. You aren't eating your dinner, you're thinking about the next meal. You aren't enjoying your success, you're worried about the next milestone. You are perpetually almost happy. The anatomy of lack. The void is created by a single mental error, the belief that external objects have the chemical property of satisfaction. We look at a luxury watch or a high-status job and we think, that object contains happiness. But if that were true, the object would make everyone happy. Yet, we see the wealthy drowning in anxiety and the successful plagued by burnout. The satisfaction doesn't live in the object. It lives in your judgment of the object. When you get the thing you want, your mind temporarily stops wanting. For a few moments, the noise in your head goes silent. You think the object gave you peace, but in reality, you gave yourself peace by finally giving yourself permission to stop craving. The Inner Doctrine asks, why wait for the object to give yourself that permission? Why not silence the craving now? The poverty of the infinite. If you have no enough threshold, you are effectively infinite in your debt. Imagine a man who wants to fill a jar with water, but the jar has no bottom. No matter how much he pours in, the jar is always empty. This is the life of a person without the discipline of desire. You are being sold the lie that more is the answer to the void. But more is just a bigger jar with a bigger hole. The only way to win is to change the jar. You must move from a life defined by acquisition to a life defined by appreciation. The hustle tells you that your value is the sum of what you have. The Inner Doctrine tells you that your value is the strength of what you can do without. 2. The enough threshold, setting the boundary. If you do not define what enough looks like, the world will define it for you. And the world's definition is always more than you have right now. The Stoic practice of the enough threshold is the act of drawing a line in the sand of your own desires. It is a mental contract where you decide, ahead of time, the point at which an external gain stops contributing to your character. The rule of natural wealth. Epictetus, a philosopher whom Seneca often quoted, made a vital distinction between two types of desires: natural and necessary, food, water, basic shelter, and friendship. These are easy to satisfy and have a physical limit. Once your hunger is gone, more food doesn't make you more full, it makes you sick. Vain and infinite, fame, luxury, and excessive status. These have no natural limit. They are like drinking salt water. The more you consume, the thirstier you become. The inner doctrine demands that you anchor your happiness in the first category. If you can be content with what is natural and necessary, you are richer than a billionaire who is addicted to the second category. The billionaire is a slave to a master that can never be satisfied. You are a master of a kingdom that is already complete. The mental audit. To set your threshold, you must look at your possessions and your goals through the lens of utility rather than status. Ask yourself, does this object serve my virtue, or does it merely serve my ego? A coat is for warmth. If it keeps you warm, it has fulfilled its natural purpose. Any extra desire for a specific brand or a higher price tag is a vain desire. It is a weight you are choosing to carry. When you strip away the labels the world puts on things, you realize that you already possess the tools for a magnificent life. The air you breathe, the books you read, and the thoughts you think are the primary colors of existence. Everything else is just extra paint. The practice, the boundary line. Today, pick one area of your life where you feel the itch for more. It could be your tech, your wardrobe, or your career milestones. Physically write down what enough looks like in that area. Enough is a phone that works. Enough is a wardrobe that fits. Enough is a salary that covers my needs and allows me to help others. Once you reach that line, stop the chase. Any further gain is a preferred indifferent, nice to have, but irrelevant to your soul. By setting the threshold, you stop being a hunter and start being a gardener. You stop looking for the next field and start blooming in the one you already own. 3. Voluntary hardship, practicing poverty. The greatest fear of the modern hustler is the fall. We spend our lives building walls of comfort, air conditioning, soft beds, gourmet meals, and high-speed connections, because we are terrified of what happens if they are taken away. We think these comforts make us strong. The Stoic knows they make us fragile. If your happiness depends on a specific temperature or a specific type of food, you are not a master, you are a hostage to your environment. Voluntary hardship is the practice of occasionally living as if your worst fears have already come true. The Seneca drill. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome, would set aside a few days every month to live in total simplicity. He would eat the cheapest food, wear his roughest clothes, and sleep on the hard floor. During this time, he would ask himself one question: is this the condition I feared? The answer was always no. The stomach still gets full on bread and water. The body still rests on a hard surface. The mind is actually clearer when it isn't distracted by luxury. By practicing poverty, you realize that your baseline for survival is incredibly low. This realization is the ultimate form of wealth. When you know you can survive and even thrive on almost nothing, the world loses its power to threaten you. You cannot be blackmailed by the fear of losing your job or your status because you know that even if you lose the palace, the soul remains untouched. The comfort addiction. Modern life is designed to eliminate all friction. We have apps for everything, climate control for every room, and entertainment for every second of boredom. This lack of friction has made our mental skin thin. We become enraged by a slow internet connection or a cold coffee because we have lost the ability to endure even minor discomfort. The inner doctrine requires you to reintroduce friction into your life. Not because pain is good, but because resilience is necessary. The practice, the temporary fast. This week, choose to decline a comfort you usually take for granted. Sleep on the floor for one night. Eat only plain rice or bread for 24 hours. Walk to your destination instead of driving. Take a cold shower. As you do this, do not complain. Do not act like a victim. Instead, observe your mind. Notice how quickly the ego rebels. Notice the internal noise that says, "This isn't fair. I deserve better." Silencing that voice is the goal. When you can look at a cold meal or a hard bed and say, "This is sufficient," you have broken your chains. You are no longer a slave to what you don't have. You are a sovereign who can find enough in any condition. 4. The anatomy of a want, breaking the spell. We are often haunted by the ghosts of things we do not own. We see a luxury car, a designer suit, or a high-status title, and we see more than just an object. We see a symbol of power, a promise of belonging, or a guarantee of peace. The Stoic practice of phantasia cataleptic, or objective representation, is the act of seeing things exactly as they are, without the stories we tell ourselves about them. Stripping the purple robe. Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man on earth, surrounded by the finest luxuries of the Roman Empire. To stay grounded, he practiced a mental stripping of his possessions. He looked at fine Falernian wine and told himself, "This is just grape juice that has rotted." He looked at his purple imperial robes, the ultimate status symbol of his time, and said, "This is just sheep wool dyed with the blood of a shellfish." He looked at a gourmet meal and reminded himself, "This is just a dead bird or a dead pig." By describing things in their most basic, physical terms, he broke the spell of desire. The magic of the object disappeared. He realized that the sheep wool didn't make him a better man, and the rotted grape juice didn't give him a better mind. The marketing filter. Every advertisement you see is an attempt to add a false impression to a physical object. They don't sell you a watch, they sell you legacy. They don't sell you a car, they sell you freedom. They don't sell you a skincare product, they sell you youth. The inner doctrine requires you to be a scientist of your own cravings. When you feel the pull of a new desire, perform a physical audit. If you want a new phone, realize it is just a slab of glass, copper, and plastic that will be obsolete in 24 months. If you want a promotion for the sake of the title, realize it is just a different set of sounds people make when they address you. When you strip away the marketing and the social pressure, the want often evaporates. You realize that you were lusting after a ghost. The practice, the objective label. Pick one item you are currently tempted to buy or an achievement you are obsessing over. Write down its physical description using only the most basic facts. Avoid words like beautiful, prestigious, powerful, or iconic. Use words like metal, plastic, paper, or opinion. Once you see the object for what it truly is, a collection of atoms that will eventually decay, the fire of desire loses its fuel. You stop being a slave to the story, and start being a master of the fact. You realize that adding more atoms to your life does not add more virtue to your soul. 5. Amor fati, the love of what is. Most people live in a state of constant argument with reality. They say, "I would be happy if only I lived in a different city. I would be content if only I had a different boss. I would be at peace if only I didn't have this physical pain or this financial debt." The Stoic calls this rebellion against the universe. When you wish for things to be different than they are, you are essentially saying that you know better than the nature of things. You are placing your happiness in a hypothetical future, which means you are choosing to be miserable in the only moment that actually exists, now. The concept of amor fati. Amor fati, or the love of fate, is the inner doctrine in its highest form. It is not just tolerating what happens to you. It is not resigning yourself to a bad situation. It is the active, enthusiastic embrace of every moment, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as necessary fuel for your growth. Imagine your life as a fire. When you throw wood on a fire, the fire doesn't complain that the wood is too dry or too heavy. It consumes the wood and turns it into flame and heat. The bigger the obstacle thrown into the fire, the brighter the fire burns. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." Your life is the fire. Your circumstances, Your small apartment, your difficult commute, your broken heart are the fuel. If you have the discipline of desire, you stop wishing for better fuel and start focusing on becoming a stronger flame. The end of if only. The hustle thrives on if only. It keeps you looking at the horizon, convinced that the current scenery is just a backdrop to be endured until you reach the destination. The Stoic realizes there is no destination. There is only the path. When you practice amor fati, you realize that your current constraints are actually your greatest advantages. Your lack of money forces you to be creative. Your difficult boss forces you to practice patience. Your solitude forces you to become your own best friend. You stop seeing your life as a series of problems to be solved and start seeing it as a series of opportunities to be lived. You realize that you have everything you need right now to be a person of supreme virtue. To desire anything else is to doubt your own power. The practice, the fuel meditation. Look at the thing in your life right now that you desire to change the most. The thing you think is holding you back from happiness. Instead of trying to escape it, ask yourself, how is this exactly what I need to become a better person? If you are struggling with debt, it is your training in discipline. If you are struggling with a relationship, it is your training in forgiveness. If you are struggling with your health, it is your training in endurance. Say the words, I did not choose this, but I choose to love it. When you love your fate, you become invincible. You are no longer a slave to what you don't have, because you have decided that what you do have is the perfect material for your masterpiece. You have found enough, because you have realized that now is the only wealth there is. 6. The Wait 48 Rule. The Stoic filter for consumption. In the digital age, the distance between desire and acquisition has been reduced to a single click. You see a product on a screen, your dopamine spikes, and before your rational mind can even enter the conversation, you have already exchanged your life energy, in the form of money, for an object you didn't know existed 2 minutes ago. The inner doctrine requires a buffer zone. The impulse gap. The Stoics taught that we are not disturbed by things, but by our impressions of them. When you see a new piece of technology or a luxury item, your mind receives an impression. This will make my life better. If you act immediately, you are a slave to that impression. The Wait 48 rule is the practice of forcibly opening a gap between the impulse and the action. When you feel the burning desire to acquire something that is not a basic necessity, you must commit to a 48-hour waiting period. During these 2 days, you are not allowed to buy the item. You are not allowed to research it further. You simply let the impression sit in the cold light of day. The decay of the spark. Most of our modern desires are not fires, they are sparks. They burn bright for a moment and then vanish. By waiting 48 hours, you allow the emotional fever to break. On hour 1, you feel like you need it. On hour 24, you start to wonder if you want it. On hour 48, you usually realize you don't even think about it. If, after 48 hours, the desire is still there and it aligns with your enough threshold, then you can proceed. But you will be proceeding as a master making a choice, not as a slave reacting to a stimulus. You have reclaimed your sovereignty over your own resources. The true cost of a want. During the 48-hour wait, the inner doctrine asks you to calculate the true cost of the item. Not in dollars, but in life. Every dollar you spend represents a portion of your time. Time you spent working, time you spent away from your family, time you can never get back. When you look at an item, ask, is this object worth 3 days of my life? Is it worth a week of my freedom? When you frame consumption in terms of time rather than currency, the discipline of desire becomes effortless. You realize that most things the world wants you to buy are actually just traps designed to keep you working longer to pay for things you don't need. The practice, the digital cart fast. The next time you are shopping online and feel the urge to buy now, do the opposite. Add the item to your cart and then close the tab. Do not check it again for 2 full days. If the store sends you abandonment, emails, or discount codes to lure you back, recognize them for what they are, attempts to bypass your reason. After 48 hours, go back to the cart. If the spark is gone, delete the item. Notice the feeling of power that comes from saying no to an impulse. That feeling, the feeling of being in control of yourself, is a far greater luxury than anything you could have bought. 7. The gratitude audit, reclaiming the value of now. The tragedy of the modern mind is that it is a master of acquisition, but a failure at appreciation. We work ourselves to exhaustion to gain an object, a house, or a title. But the moment we possess it, our mind discards its value and begins scanning the horizon for the next target. This is why you can live in a palace and feel like a prisoner. You are suffering from adaptation blindness. You have become blind to the miracles you already own. The used to want list. The inner doctrine requires you to perform a regular gratitude audit. This is not a vague exercise in feeling good. It is a cold, rational accounting of your current wealth. Look around the room you are in right now. Look at the clothes on your back, the food in your pantry, and the device in your hand. There was a version of you, 5 or 10 years ago, who would have looked at your current life and thought you had finally made it. You are currently living in your own past self's dream. If you cannot appreciate what you have now, why do you think you will appreciate what you get later? If you are ungrateful for a small apartment, you will be ungrateful for a mansion. The mansion is just a bigger space to be miserable in. Gratitude is the skill that allows you to actually consume the happiness you have earned. Negative visualization, the Stoic key. The most powerful tool in the audit is premeditatio majorum, specifically applied to your possessions. Instead of thinking about what it would be like to have more, spend 5 minutes imagining what it would be like to lose what you have. Imagine your home being taken away. Imagine losing the ability to walk or see. Imagine having to live without the person who currently annoys you with their habits. When you stop taking these things for granted, when you realize they are temporary gifts on loan from the universe, their value skyrockets. Suddenly, a simple glass of water is a luxury. A quiet morning is a fortune. A healthy body is a miracle. The practice, the inventory of abundance. Today, pick 3 items you use every day: your bed, your shoes, your kitchen stove. Spend 1 minute reflecting on the sheer amount of human effort and cosmic luck required for those items to be in your possession. Think of the engineers, the laborers, the logistics, and the materials. Then use them with intention. When you lie in bed, don't just collapse, feel the support of the mattress. When you eat, don't just swallow, taste the food. By performing the gratitude audit, you realize that you don't need a hustle to become wealthy. You are already surrounded by unimaginable riches. You have found enough because you have finally stopped ignoring the abundance that is already in your hands. 8. The fast, resetting the baseline of joy. The modern world has hijacked your dopamine system. You are being bombarded with super stimuli, high sugar foods, infinite scrolls, social media, high definition entertainment, and instant shopping. Because the volume of your life is always at a 10, you have lost the ability to hear the music of reality. When your baseline for excitement is a viral video or a shopping spree, a quiet walk in the park feels like a punishment. This is not a failure of the park, it is a failure of your senses. You have become numb to the ordinary. The Stoic reset. The inner doctrine uses the fast to lower your threshold for joy. By stepping into a sensory desert, you allow your mental receptors to recover. You are clearing the static so you can hear the signal. Musonius Rufus, the teacher of Epictetus, argued that luxury is a trap because it makes us harder to please. The more special your life becomes, the less happy you are, because special is a rare occurrence. The Stoic goal is to be easy to please. We want to reach a state where a piece of fruit tastes like a feast and a conversation with a friend feels like an event. The digital and physical fast. A fast is not about punishment, it is about calibration. The information fast, turning off all notifications, news, and entertainment for 24 hours. This silences the noise of others and forces you to listen to your own inner doctrine. The luxury fast, avoiding all supernormal stimuli. No processed sugar, no caffeine, no streaming services. When you remove the artificial highs, your mind initially panics. It feels bored, restless, and empty. Stay in that emptiness. That restlessness is the sound of your addiction to more leaving your body. The practice, the Sunday desert. Once a month, engage in a total fast from the modern world. No phone. No internet. No complex foods. No spending money. Spend the day with a book, a notebook, or your own thoughts. Walk. Sit. Breathe. At first, the day will feel like an eternity. But by the evening, something miraculous happens. You will find that you are looking at the sunset with actual interest. You will find that a simple meal tastes incredible. You have reset your baseline. You have found enough by realizing that the less you were so afraid of is actually where your peace was hiding all along. 9. The freedom of non-attachment, the final wall. There is a profound difference between ownership and attachment. You can own a house, a car, and $1 billion, and still be a free person. Or you can own nothing but a single coat and be a total slave. The difference is not found in your bank account. It is found in the grip of your soul. Attachment is the mental error of believing that your self is extended into your objects. When your car gets scratched, you feel wounded. When your stock portfolio drops, your value as a human drops. You have tied your inner fortress to a series of external anchors that are guaranteed to sink. The open hand policy. The Stoic lives with an open hand. Imagine holding a handful of sand. If you squeeze your fist tight to keep the sand from escaping, you create tension, pain, and anxiety. And yet, the sand will still leak through your fingers. But if you keep your hand open, the sand rests there peacefully. You can enjoy it, you can feel its texture, but you are not fighting the wind to keep it. The inner doctrine teaches you to view your life through the lens of usufruct, the legal right to use and enjoy something that belongs to another. You do not own your life, your health, or your wealth. They are on loan from the universe. Epictetus said, "Never say of anything, I have lost it, but I have returned it." Is your child dead? They are returned. Is your wife dead? She is returned. Is your estate taken away? Well, and is that not likewise returned? When you realize that you own nothing, you lose the fear of loss. You find enough because you realize that the only thing you truly possess is your reason and your will. Everything else is just scenery. The joy of the temporary. The hustle tells you that if you don't have security, permanent ownership, you can't have peace. The Stoic realizes that security is a myth. Nothing is permanent. By accepting the transience of all things, you actually increase your ability to enjoy them. You appreciate the meal more because you know it is ending. You love your friend more because you know they are mortal. Non-attachment isn't about being cold or unfeeling. It is about being so present that you don't need the moment to last forever to make it meaningful. You have found enough because you have stopped trying to turn a moment into a monument. The practice, the gift of return. Identify the one thing you are most afraid of losing right now. It could be your reputation, a specific relationship, or your financial status. Physically say to yourself, "This is not mine. This is alone." The universe can call for its return at any moment, and I will hand it back without a grumble. This is not a depressing thought. It is the sound of your chains breaking. When you no longer need things to stay exactly as they are to be happy, you are finally free to enjoy them exactly as they are. You have reached the final wall. You have stopped being a slave to what you don't have, and what you might lose, and you have become the master of what you are. 10. The synthesis, living the disciplined life. We have deconstructed the void, set our thresholds, and practiced the art of return. But the inner doctrine is not a destination you reach, it is a rhythm you maintain. The world will not stop trying to make you feel less. The algorithms will continue to hunt you. The hustle will continue to scream that you are falling behind. Living the disciplined life means standing in the middle of that noise and remaining untouched. It means being the person who has everything because they want for nothing. The wealth of the soul. The ultimate synthesis of this discipline is the realization that desire is a debt. Every time you want something you do not have, you are taking out a high-interest loan against your current peace. You are saying, I agree to be unhappy until this condition is met. The Stoic refuses to sign that contract. True wealth is the ability to walk through a marketplace or scroll through a feed and say, with total honesty, look at all these things I do not need. When you reach this state, your power becomes absolute. You cannot be manipulated by greed. You cannot be crushed by poverty. You cannot be controlled by those who hold the keys to status. You have moved from being a consumer of life to a creator of meaning. The final integration. To live the inner doctrine, you must integrate the three pillars we have built. Objective sight, seeing things as they are, dead birds, shellfish blood, slabs of glass. Voluntary limit, knowing where your enough line is and refusing to cross it for the sake of ego. Active love, embracing your current reality, amor fati, as the perfect raw material for virtue. If you have these three, you are unshakable. You can be a king in a cottage or a philosopher in a palace. The setting doesn't matter because the light is coming from inside the room. Closing command, reclaim your throne. The hustle told you that you were a hole to be filled. The inner doctrine tells you that you are a fountain. Stop asking the world to give you what you lack. Start realizing that your character, your reason, and your capacity to love are infinite resources. You have found enough not because you have reached the top of the mountain, but because you have realized that you are the mountain itself. Go forth and live as a free person. Be the one who is satisfied with bread while others starve on caviar. Be the one who is rich in spirit while others are poor in gold. Be the one who finally stopped waiting for life to begin and started living it. The discipline is complete. The slave has become the master. Now, we have spent this time together dismantling the lies that kept you in chains. You were told that you were a project to be finished. You were told that your peace was a prize waiting at the end of a race that has no finish line. You were told that to be less was to be nothing. But here, within the inner doctrine, you have discovered the greatest secret of the sages. Freedom is not the ability to get what you want. It is the power to not want it in the first place. As you turn off this screen and return to the world, the noise will start again. The advertisements will tell you that you are missing something. The social feeds will show you a curated reality designed to spark your envy. Your own mind might even whisper that you need just one more win to be safe. When that happens, I want you to remember the lessons we build here at Inner Doctrine. Look at your hands. Look at the air in your lungs. Look at the ability you have, right now, to choose your own character. That is the only wealth that cannot be taken by a thief, taxed by a government, or lost to time. You are no longer a slave to what you don't have. You are the master of what you are. You have found the still point. You have found enough. If you found strength in these words, join the other Stoic minds in our community by subscribing. We are building a fortress of reason together, one chapter at a time. Go now, and live not as a beggar seeking scraps from the world, but as a king who has realized his kingdom was within him all along. Remain the master of your mind.